Just a few technical reminding notes before we get started. If you experience any issues with your audio or video during the conference, just refresh your browser and that should take care of everything. If you have any questions for our speakers or panel members, please do feel free to post your questions on the video wall, which is on the right-hand side of your screen. We will share with our speaker at the end of the session, and they will reply to you through the video wall or through the email afterwards. If you'd like to connect with our speakers, please move to the home lobby page. You can find the speaker by typing their names under Networking tab on the right-hand corner of your screen. We welcome all of our audience to interact with each other through our networking features. And also, please feel free to tag us on our social media handles with the hashtag AIMDigital. Hi, everyone. Hope you all enjoyed our previous session on future of health and boosting innovation to combat epidemics. Now on to our next session. We have a great exciting line of cybersecurity experts who will discuss the topic, strengthening cybersecurity in this post-pandemic world. For this session, we have Mr. Stefan Ludwig, who is the Chief Cybersecurity Officer of Siemens Financial Services, and he will be moderating the panel. Mr. Stefan, the stage is yours.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the panel discussion session on strengthening cybersecurity in this post-pandemic world. I feel really honored to have this discussion today with such an esteemed panel, and I'm sure with the diversity and the backgrounds and the expertise everyone brings to the virtual table today, that will guarantee quite some fruitful dialogue and hopefully a lot of thought for everyone who's listening and watching today. The topic, I think, itself does not require any introduction. We are all affected by the pandemic, and we will dive into various aspects on how this has implications for cybersecurity. I'm your moderator today. My name is Stefan Ludwig. I'm the Chief Cybersecurity Officer for the Financial Services division of Siemens. And there we offer financing solutions primarily in the business-to-business area. I've long history working in cybersecurity and information technology in various positions, worked in several countries, so I got to learn about all the challenges we have in cybersecurity in normal times. And recently, as we all did, I also got a crash course in cybersecurity during pandemics. I would like to hand over to Erdal. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Stefan. It's a pleasure to be with you and with all my co-speakers here. Thank you for everybody to making this happen. As Stefan said, my name is Erdal Ozkaya. Currently, I work at actually Standard Chartered Bank, not Charles Sturt University. I mean, I work there as well, but as regional CISO. I'm also part-time doing lecturing at Australian Charles Sturt University. Like Stefan, for the last 20 years, I'm trying to help the community to raise the cyber awareness. I mean, when we first started, everybody was looking as we are from the moon, because when we were talking about security, hackers, this and that, they were thinking it's far, far away. But today, I think everybody is well aware of the dangers. What I do is, besides being a full-time CISO in the region, as well as a university lecturer in Australia, I write books, I speak in events like that. So I believe we are better together. So next is Marta. Marta, can you please introduce yourself? Marta, you are mute. If you can unmute yourself, please.
Of course. So hi, my name is Marta Gier-Piekarska. I'm Director of Ecosystem for Hyperledger. I've been with Hyperledger for the past 4 years. I actually have background in security and privacy. I wrote my PhD on user-informed design of privacy tools. So day to day, I'm mostly occupied with blockchain-y things, but security and cybersecurity are very close to my heart still.
Thank you. Kumar?
Yeah, thanks very much. Well, thanks for inviting me to this panel. Well, great to be here. My name is Kumar Ritesh. I'm founder and CEO of a young company called Cyfirma. We actually do threat discovery and cyber intelligence. I carry almost 20 years of experience in cybersecurity domain. First part of my career was into intelligence agency. So I used to work very closely with agency, and then left agency, went into commercial, working with a number of companies. Before starting Cypherma, I was actually CISO for one of the largest resourcing company called BHP Bulletin. And to be honest, I've seen actually cyber from very close quarters, to be honest, as a practitioner, as an implementer and builder of cybersecurity solution, and as well as now a founder of a cybersecurity startup. Very close to my heart again, as Martha said, and this topic really excites us every time we talk about this.
Thank you. So I think today and now is really a very good time to have a discussion on the cybersecurity effects of this global pandemic, because we are now already in a position where we can look back a bit, but at the same time also reflect on how businesses and society is coping with the challenges at the moment, and maybe also look a bit into the crystal ball and talk about what the future will, or at least should look like. So to kick it off, maybe we can talk a bit about how the topic affects you professionally and perhaps also privately.
And this question is to all of us, or should I start?
If
ladies first, I think we should start with Martha, if she's okay. You are muting again, Martha.
Exactly. As soon as Martha unmutes.
So thank you for your courtesy. So how does it affect me personally? Well, on the pandemic side of things, obviously, you know, I stopped traveling as much as I used to travel, and it's very sad because I feel very lonely being in my little house in Cambridge in the UK, especially now that the winter is coming, and I'm not looking forward to the winter. I would much rather be in a warmer place. But in a more serious way, in Hyperledger in general, we are seeing a lot of drive towards security, looking at how kind of, because we are moving to a much more digital world, how can we protect the information that up until now we didn't really care that much. Data is becoming much more valuable, and the attacks are becoming much more sophisticated. You know, with telemedicine being now a fact, we moved from not being able to convince a doctor to give you a result over a phone line to having a very elaborate consultations over phone, with employees working from home and not being really great at securing their systems. And on the other hand, the IT departments being completely freaked out and protecting the systems, but then, you know, we can't use Zoom because someone decided this Zoom is insecure. We can't use Microsoft Teams because someone decided that Microsoft Teams is insecure. So also on the very mundane level, when I try to connect to our Hyperledger members, we're having a lot of struggles just simply talking, because the security comes first, which is great, but it does have to kind of, we still have to remember that usability is something that we need to focus on.
Good point, yeah. What about you, Erdal?
All right, similar stuff, actually. I used to say for years, look, the world is changing. We need to start digital transformation. One day, I mean, I never knew it was going to be that bad, but I'm pretty sure, like everybody else who is in the field and who is able to see the future, we were warning everybody, stating the possible issues that might come. And unfortunately, it happened overnight. Most of us were locked in our house, as Martha said. I used to fly so often, honestly, I missed even the landing music in Emirates Airline. Saying that, Martha, hopefully you will be in beautiful Dubai soon, because the weather is really nice and warm here as usual. But back to the topic. So pandemic, how did it change? Or I think I don't have to talk about the effects of how did affect the humanity, but when it comes to humanity, we have very basic steps to follow up, right? Like wear your mask, try to keep your social distancing, try to keep up with your personal hygiene. But same thing actually applies to real world as well. If we just instead of having personal hygiene, if we just have least privileges, instead of having social distances, we ensure that we are, for example, using zero trust, we verify every communication, and we have defense in that. Probably we could be in much better state as well on the dangers which Martha said. Again, back to the beginning, what I was trying to say, in one mind, we were locked in our house. Like, it was easy to go to the office, pass security, go up. I mean, I have my office, sit down in the office and communicate within the office. But at the moment, I could be in a Starbucks connecting to my corporate environment virtually. Of course, many dangers came in, but I'm gonna probably leave this for further questions. So the world has affected everybody as much as it did affect me, but I'm pretty sure we as thought leaders can give the lesson learned to everybody who's listening to this wonderful conference and give them some advantages. Stefan, back in you.
Thank you. And Kumar?
You know, it's a great point made by Martha and Dr. Erdal. Like, I think it's very topical right now. I think the way we feel, to be honest. And cybersecurity is one area, I think, which has traditionally actually, you know, impacted, or positively, negatively, if you look at it, it has actually influenced our work, our family, our play, our, you know, inside, outside, to be honest. I think it was touching everybody and anybody, to be honest. But what has happened because of pandemic, I think we sitting behind the computer back in our homes, locked in the home, I think our time in front of computer, our time in front of mobility appliances and devices have gone really, really up. I think we are spending more time there, which, to be honest, I think it really tells us something about how can we effectively keep ourselves upbeat when you are just locked in one place, as Martha and you know, Dr. Erdal was talking about. Like, you know, how can you keep yourself upbeat? And if you look at in cybercriminal side of things, and this is what we do, and that's why I'm able to actually speak about it. They have been also graduating a lot in this pandemic time, and we have seen a big change in their motives as well, and their method as well, which I'll talk about the later part of the conversation. But yeah, I'm very aligned to what other panelists actually spoke about.
Yeah, thank you. And for myself, you know, on the private aspects, what stands out for me still is that we had to get used to homeschooling 2 kids and all the technology hurdles we had to jump over. But I mean, kids are you know, flexible. They adjust quickly, and also on the side of the teachers, they made great efforts to compensate for the lack of physical presence. So that I think in hindsight is an interesting experience for everyone. But on the other hand, when businesses closed their doors in Germany, the cybersecurity organization, we worked very closely and over time together with our IT infrastructure counterparts, for instance, to scale the existing services and set up also new services to cope with the fact that really suddenly, basically, as you 3 also already mentioned, basically everyone who used to work in the office started working from home. So within days, we had, for instance, more than 100,000 extra users working remotely. So that was something that we had really to cope with. But luckily, we had been pushing digitalization and flexibility already before. So for instance, we had already started before COVID with a project to move all endpoints to the internet. And the plan was to do that within a period of about 2 years. With COVID, that happened within 3 weeks. So that was really something that required a lot of effort and commitment from everyone. But looking back, I think it's also kind of a chance, an opportunity to drive things where we basically all know they should happen. For instance, in terms of digitalization, to just push them and drive them further. And I think you all three already touched on a couple of points, what the short-term implications of the pandemic are in terms of cybersecurity for businesses, maybe also individuals and society. From your perspective, what are the most relevant implications that hit us in terms of cybersecurity simultaneously with the pandemic? And Kumar, would you start? Was that around?
Yeah, no, thanks very much for that question. It's quite important in the current time. I will actually answer that, the question a little bit in a fragmented way. If you look at from individuals' perspective, given all the restriction and the control which all of a sudden came on us, I think our dependency on mobile devices, our laptops, we're spending more time behind them. Connecting appliances and devices like your VPN, your Zoom, and everything else, your online entertainment. I think consumption of all this went really, really up. Okay, which means I think if you look at from cyber threat perspective, we all of a sudden gave actually cyber criminals a bigger attack surface, right? By which they can come behind us. And remember, this was all happening from a home network, which is quite porous, I would say. The home networks are not as strong as enterprise networks. That was one part. I think pretty much we threw privacy out of the window because of all the tracking apps. And this part of the world, we have got actually a gadget which we have to carry with us. So literally now, to be honest, we are all accessible to anybody and everybody. And the other side, if you just translate this back into cyber criminal group, I think their focus also completely changed, as I was alluding previously. I think their focus, starting from PII, CII, FII, I think it started to move towards intellectual property, to trade secret, and really going behind individuals. And we have seen this in our client and customer space like number of times where, now they are pretty much targeting individuals who hold crown jewels, because now they're not potentially able to actually hold those crown jewels into a vault or into a secure system. It has to be on your desktop, laptop, by which you operate, the way you operate. I think it has to be accessible. From business side of things, again, I think, focus from cyber criminal group, if you look at it, enterprises were important, but then all of a sudden individual and their systems became quite important for them as well. And the way, to be honest, we were all operating, I think that also completely changed. The time spending behind systems, the time which we were spending talking to each other. I think all the meetings and everything else went, I would say in my case, personally, in my case, it went almost double. And which was a big change, to be honest. From society perspective, I think what we have seen, and being a cyber intelligence company, and I want to really emphasize on that, I think pandemic has really made us fragmented, very much fragmented. You see a lot of geopolitical tussle going on right now with everything else which we hear out, and which is really driving, the cyber crime economy really, really fast. I think the way it is growing now, with all the state-sponsored hackers being involved, all the states pushing the agenda, I think the time has changed, and I think we need to look at things very, very differently the way we used to look before.
Yeah, thank you. And Marta, you come from a company that I believe focuses also on connecting businesses, collaboration, bringing people together in a manner where you can also create trust. What's your perspective on this?
Well, I think that I'm terrified of what is happening with the privacy right now, and also how much it's not working. If you notice, I'm not sure, maybe in some other parts of the world it's better, but where I am, we are supposed to go to every restaurant and enter our details in a piece of paper. Well, guess how many times people actually put their data in? And it's like, yeah, I'm about to, go for a weekend getaway. I'm not going to put in my phone number so that track and trace can trace me and tell me that I'm going to, have to stay at home or anything like that. And that's happening all the time. So people are aware of their privacy, but mostly because it's an inconvenience for them, right? They're revealing their private data. I think our members have seen a great opportunity within the kind of post-pandemic world to speed up development of certain features that they've been working on. A lot of work has been done in the self-sovereign identity space and building secure and trustworthy, trusted systems that allow you for credential tracking, for instance. So there is a big project done by Evernham, one of our member companies, with National Health Services here in the UK, where they are building out a very interesting system for collaboration between the healthcare providers and the kind of tracking their credentials. There are companies working on the pharma supply chain, which is also another big issue, security and proving provenance of hopefully the vaccine that we'll be soon using, or the drug that apparently is a miracle drug for Donald Trump. Even that, right, we need to make it protected. So I think certain information became much more valuable, and thus it's much higher risk of being attacked, right? The incentives are much higher. And I think we still haven't grasped the level to which these things changed, and how now one of the things that is a big issue in the blockchain space, and permission blockchain especially, is that people have been designing systems based on the fact that they wanted to use a distributed ledger technology, and security came third. And now when it turns out that actually the information that is being stored on a blockchain is immutable, and you can't, revert whatever you put in there, well, all of a sudden it becomes a big issue, because this is the last thing we've been thinking about.
Yeah, very, very good points, and I think that really illustrates that in many cases, many aspects, the stakes are just higher now, and we need to have a good conversation, a good discussion, not only about technology, but also about how we want to use it, where our priorities are. What priority privacy and so on should have in the whole context. And I think this will also be part of the learning curve we are all going through at the moment. And hopefully we reach a good consensus before we put technology in place that, as you pointed out in your example, can then not be easily reversed. And Erdal, you come from a banking background, and the banking industry is not really known for being very, very permissive in the sense that they would allow traditionally people to work from home, to take banking data home, access critical systems remotely. What happened in the space that you can see?
Thank you. Another great question. Honestly, it was all about the mindset. So as Kumar said, we had to look everything differently. And saying that, I was a person who was traveling a lot. Most of my team was traveling a lot, but you're right. There are some people, for example, in Swift, they cannot take their laptop home, or because they didn't have a laptop anyway. So when you ever ask me that, do you think a Swift operator is going to work one day from home? I would probably say, come on, are you kidding me? But unfortunately, or fortunately, those things happen. But how did it happen? Of course, we had some security measures that we had to put in place first. Yes, speed was important during COVID. We had to enable people to work from home, and I'm just talking. Forget about my nearly 2 years experience here at Cybersecurity. before that, I used to be a cybersecurity trusted advisor at Microsoft, and I used to deal with lots of financial customers worldwide as well. You can put your finger in any part of the world. Probably I visited a customer there, and it comes there to that. Same for everybody. What happened is, as long as you could foresee some of these issues, but again, not all, you had the layered defense approach. You would not allow a laptop to connect to internet without any protection. Let's say YouTube, where you see beautiful banner ad which offers you the latest update about the vaccine, which you click and takes you to a water-hauling website which dumps the malware on you. If you could just block this, minimize privilege access, and let people only connect to a corporate VPN, to a jump server, and in that jump server, ensure that all this connection only can be to internal security system can be done with this. This could be, I mean, this was the only solution. And honestly, we slowed it down. We measured all the risk, and lucky I was doing this at Microsoft again. And I'm not just talking about myself. I have a group CISO which I report to, with his leadership, of course, with Yuval Luz who enforced this as well. Things change in a positive way. But what if that user didn't have a laptop? Okay, go buy a laptop. I don't think so. There is no stock. Forget about it. I know some organization had issues to get extra VPN licenses, right? As you said, like easy to say 10,000 computers, 2 years job within 3 weeks. Now I know why you have some white in your beards. I mean, I don't have to explain this for myself as well, right? The stress which came true. And as Marta said, like, are we going to enforce the security in a way that it's going to be less functional, hard to use? Or are we going to implement the security in a way that next week, as Kumar said, we're going to be in the news, in a bad way, of course? Or GDPR, like I was born up in Deutschland, I'm in Germany. Most of you are in Europe. So GDPR, remember the British airline issue with the loyalty card? They had a very small issue. You know, I think less than 1,000 customers were affected. So if you put this in number, it would never ever cost $1 million. But they had more than $250 million US as fine. What I'm trying to say is things has changed so dramatically that now we put our own names in a paper, as Marta said. And where is GDPR here? Oh, I know, this has to go to a server. So put this into banking. Being a global bank, being a European bank, being everywhere in the world, of course, we have to first, like UAE, for example, we have to make sure that we work with the legislations in the UAE. In other countries, but thinking of CIA first. When I say CIA, of course, everybody in security understands the confidentiality, integrity, and availability with proper partners. Partners like Siemens, like Kumar's company, like Marta's company, who can help us to be better. Because in this war, look, I tell this all the time. You don't really have to know or love your next door neighbor, but you might hate this because they might listen always to loud music, and you have to go knock the door sometimes. But if there is a fire in their house, you better go and help them. If not, the fire is going to jump very soon into your house as well. Did this not happen with Corona? It started in China. Some of us would say, they ate bats. Hold on, they were eating bats for the last 2,000 years. So what just happened now? I know, COVID is not new, but put this in cybersecurity. Attacks was always happening. And as you said, if you didn't plan this earlier, if you don't have a proper cybersecurity strategy, which enforces security as necessary, then that 3 weeks was impossible to achieve. But I bet, even though we met Neve, I bet you had a proper security strategy, which help you to speed up the process. Of course, you had some dilemmas. We had some dilemmas, and it's normal. But as long as you put the mindset of, as CISO, cybersecurity leaders, as a CEO, of course, it's our job to protect our customers, our shareholders, and our employees' confidentiality, integrity, availability. But it is also our job to explain cybersecurity, not just to the board, but also to everybody from A to Z, from the cleaner to the contractor security, from the security to a clerk, from the clerk all the way to shareholders. If you could do that, if you could, I put my glasses out. If you can think that, I'm just going to put my glasses in, if you can have a cybersecurity glasses, and which as soon as you put it in, help you to think the problem in different way, you could foresee and prepare for some of the stuff. As I said, it was impossible to foresee that, but our experiences made things much easier, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Erdal. And I fully agree, having a solid cybersecurity strategy in place, maybe also having a number of security services and processes embedded in the enterprise, that is certainly a major factor in coping with the pandemic or other big events in a successful way. But Marta and Kumar, are there perhaps other factors that make the difference between somebody, some company that maybe struggles a bit with the pandemic, and on the other hand, a company that is maybe really at the brink of going out of business? Are there perhaps other factors than strategy?
Well, pivoting. Adjustment and pivoting, flexibility. We've learned a while ago, and if anything we've learned from the Silicon Valley and the sharks tanks and all those beautiful things, is that the more flexible you are and the more open-minded you are, but willing to then focus very quickly, is what differentiates a very successful business from a very weak business. And this is, funding has been lost. Like, I know so many companies that lost funding because they were planning to close their, not even A rounds, but sometimes B rounds, which are, really important. So I know so many companies that did that, but being able to open up for new projects, start thinking slightly differently about what they're doing and how can their technology, and especially, with distributed ledgers, it's such a versatile technology that you can actually very easily move from one topic to another, or at least change the twist to it, add some features and so on. Coming with new business models as well. Something that I've started seeing much more is, doing freemiums, and a freemium type of models, or working with design partners where you team up with a company that provides services, provides their product to another company that then gives back the feedback to improve the products. So in technology, it's incredibly easy. There are places where it's much harder. I'm kind of also quite interested in the food industry, and a lot of gin distilleries have now turned into hand sanitizer companies, because pure alcohol is pure alcohol. So yeah, I think what differentiates a good business from a business that will fail is resilience, creativity, and ability to pivot.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that might actually be one of the silver linings, if we all become a bit more agile, more open, more creative in our problem solving. That should come in handy also for other situations. Yeah. And Kumar, do you have anything from your professional perspective to add here?
Yeah, I think you guys covered pretty much everything. I think, as Martha was saying, and yourself, I think to survive and thrive in the new normal, I think you need the agility. You need that, your business needs to orient to that dynamic situation. And as this goes back to, as Darwin once said, those who survive are not the strongest or the most intelligent ones, right? But the one most adaptable to the change. And I think we are at that juncture where we have to very quickly, we had to change. and we had to adopt to the new normal. I think the other thing which I have seen, at least in the startup world, I have seen a lot of startups going back and going into this, we call it in our world called analysis paralysis, right? You get into this mode of analyzing the external situation so much that you really started to sort of lose the sort of vision of what you actually intended to do. And as Martha said, like, if you look at our focus was literally going back to the fundamental of, hey, can we go back and enhance our product? So we actually put a lot of our stress towards making sure that our product is better off. We went back actually changing the way we were reaching out to our client and customers. Everything went digital. And of course, our complete marketing, outreach to customers were completely changed as well. And we have seen number of actually companies as well. We saw a very large bank here in Singapore who used to operate very traditionally, and they went completely digital. And not only digital, in fact, they went one level up, by which they came up with these security appliances, which was given to each individual subscriber of theirs. So yeah, I think adding to the point, it's really, going back to the fundamentals, being agile, being dynamic, and not getting into that analysis paralysis sort of a stage, and just rallying around with your agenda. It was the most important factor, and it continues to be the most important factor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. And one thing that, or actually two things that I always remember when I think about the changing threat landscape and how unique the current situation is. One thing I always think about is that actually ransomware groups, attackers pledged not to attack healthcare facilities, hospitals, and so on. I think that is really unprecedented. But at the same time, for instance, here in Germany, we had a case where a woman died because the local hospital was under a ransomware attack, and she could not be treated there, and that was fatal for her. So really two, I think, unique extreme points here when it comes to the threat landscape, to the risks we are facing. And you all three touched on that point already, right? That we have kind of a unique combination of things that in isolation might have happened also before, but now we have suddenly lots of people working at home in insecure environments. They are not trained for that usually. There's a general anxiety that makes social engineering a lot easier, and attackers are just jumping on the chance to exploit this situation. Erdal, you gave an example already what concrete measures you would propose to take companies. Maybe if you would like to add or expand on that a bit more in terms of what needs maybe to be done completely different now, in addition to scaling up, improving existing defense measures? Or is it about making sure that the good stuff that worked before is now applied correctly to the new situation?
Stefan, you gave a wonderful example. If I get hacked, God forbid, yes, maybe money will be stolen. Somehow I can get this money back. Maybe servers will burn down. Somehow I can buy the new server. Maybe I will lose my job. Somehow I will find a job. But that life of the woman will never ever gonna come back. And unfortunately, cybersecurity is in a stage that it starts to threaten life. Let's give the credit. When the hospital told the attackers that it was a hospital, they released the key, but was too late. Look at the Garmin example. They were demanded to pay $10 million. They negotiated down for $4 million. Again, it's all in the news. I'm not giving any confidential information here. Okay, let's look at the first ransomware attack. For the ones that are watching this conference and are not from cybersecurity background, let me give a quick example. Ransomware attack is, I'm pretty sure you watched a Hollywood movie where they kidnap a businessman or child and they ask for money. If you don't pay the money, then they will harm that person. So ransomware is the cybersecurity version of it. They encrypt somehow your computer via social engineering, via malware, via different methods, and they demand for money. Look at the history. I love Sun Tzu. He wrote a book 2,500 years ago, before of this time, and he said, look, 3 important stuff. 1, have a strategy, because if you don't have a strategy, you will never ever win. 2, know yourself. To win a war, know yourself, but it's not enough. You have to also know your enemy. This is also not enough. To win a war, you have to know yourself, know the enemy, and know the attack ground. So why I'm telling this? When did the first ransomware attack happen? No, it's not 2016, 2017, WannaCry. Way before 1980, first ransomware attack happened through a floppy disk installation in a healthcare organization, unfortunately. Then the first big one after that happened in 2016 or 17. Don't hold me liable for that. What happened is, a state-funded organization used Eternal Blue. Microsoft found out. They released the urgent patch, and not 2 hours, not 2 days, not 2 weeks, not 20 days, not 50 days, 60 days. In other words, 2 months later, the first WannaCry attack happened. So back to your question. And back then I used to work for Microsoft, which I'm still a proud ex-employee. Oh, Microsoft, it's your fault. I'm like, okay, there was a patch and you did not patch your computer for 2 months. Look at most of the attack vectors. As Chen Chu said 2,500 years ago. If you don't know what happened yesterday, if you don't know what's happening now and the stuff that you're using, then you cannot protect against it. So ransomware attacks happens always in the same way. So phishing email, I know it's very hard to stop. Social engineering, it's the art of human hacking. I wrote a 600-page book which was selected best of all time, but even I can get sometimes stressed. I'm a human. I have fears, and COVID was perfect example for the fears. I bet Martha will never ever give her details for a restaurant, a pen and paper when they ask. But if she wants to eat that food, and if she wants to get notified there was a corona case, she should go to the hospital. She gives it away willingly, which she did. So back to your question again. When did you patch your systems last time? When I say systems, it includes from A to Z everything. Why do you need your admin privileges? Why do you need a laptop which connects to your data center as well as to a website that you download movies? Could be Netflix, I don't care. It doesn't have to be always illegal downloads. Just Netflix. Oh, but why do you need this? I'm pretty sure you heard about pass the hash. Or why do you need to have, all this beautiful, I can get the list higher and higher, but it comes always the same thing. It's always come to convenience. We are lazy. And hackers know that. When I say lazy, please don't take it the bad way. Like, instead of carrying 2 machines, one for corporate only, one for personal only, or having a virtual machine you don't have to even carry, or using a cloud system, Azure, Amazon, Google, I really don't care, Alibaba, as long as it's safe and gives you security, and connect from that to your secure environment, then you can, you have to look at the mirror. You have to put your head in front of you and think how the hackers are coming. Look at this, happened in Saudi Arabia, 2014, Aramco, right? Shamoon, version 1, again, don't hold me, it could be 2015. 30,000 computers were wiped out. 2 years later, Shamoon version 2, another 15,000. 1 year later, another 10,000 computers were wiped. Not in Aramco this time, but in Saudi itself. It's the same thing again. So look, I always give this example. I know I talk with much apologies for my co-panelists, but how is social engineering happening? I always give this example. Again, you don't have to believe, but I believe in a God, and I'm pretty sure you heard about Adam and Eve. You know, regardless of which religion you believe, just even as a story, you know, even if you don't believe to your religion, they were in heaven. They had everything. Then there was a forbidden tree. Some religion says apple, some of them doesn't specify what it is. And the rule was not to touch that tree. We all know what happened. The religion calls it devil. I call it social engineer. Came through and hacked Eve to get that forbidden fruit to be eaten. So social engineering is in DNA. We cannot beat it. But look again in the past. For example, money. Napoleon. You know, money. Just remind me who is Napoleon. He became the emperor. He started to invade Europe. Then suddenly people had to come together to bring him down. So if we learn from his mistake, Hitler, again, being born in Germany, my brothers are still in Germany, like many other Turkish Germans. You know, Hitler, for example, how did he become successful? If you look at the past, it's very similar. So we had to learn from the lesson. Or if you think there's enough, no, look at Ottoman Empire, for example. They went in with end of First World War to Russia in winter. If they read Feng Shui and learned about the attacking ground, they would know it was going to be too cold there, and they would not attack in winter. As Martha said, winter is coming, she wants to go away. She knows winter is coming, unfortunately she cannot fly. So put all this into cybersecurity. If we know the history of attacks, if we know the technology we use and the attackers, how they attack. Look, I'm not saying you're going to be 100% secure. We all know there's two types of organizations. One, they know they've been hacked. Two, they don't. Back to the point, this is all, if you put all this together, security strategy will clear up itself. Again, apologies, Kumar, Stefan, and Marta for talking too much. I'm going to be quiet for a while, but I hope this answered the question.
Actually, you made a great point there, you know, and I want to just touch upon on that, Stefan, for a minute, if you allow me.
Sure.
I think it goes back to the fundamental basic hygiene, which you can potentially actually apply to, like, you know, the 4 pillars of like people, technology, process, and the governance. I think it goes back to absolute fundamental where, you know, when you look at people, what is one of the most, I would say, weakest vector for people, as Dr. Erdal was just highlighting, social engineering. How can we potentially actually educate people about cyber threats and risk? You know, going back to technology, we have seen number of times, you know, where patch hasn't been taken care properly. You have, you know, corporations who have not even if looked at layer defense. It's all about taking one security control, applying that to environment and just leaving it there. I think you know, this pandemic has brought us to a situation where we have to start to look at things a little bit more seriously. We had those concepts for many, many years, like layer defense. You know, how can you potentially apply many resistance for cyber criminal before they can get to the crown jewels? You know, going back to the process where, you know, we used to have all these fancy, great concepts of profiling. You know, how do we make sure our networks are proper segmented and zoned, and how do you risk containerize your networks properly, right? I think we have, given with the new tech coming in, given cloud, I think we have started to give up those sort of concept altogether. And I think that this is a good time for us to start to look at those base fundamental. Make sure you look at your, you know, your encryptions, your data is all encrypted in the right place. And looking at the governance, I think, which Dr. Erdal was touching upon, you need to know your enemy. We always actually advocate this. there are 5 fundamental questions which you need to always answer as a good cybersecurity professional or a practitioner. Answer to: who are those cybercriminals, which is going back to his point of understanding your enemies. Why are they interested in you? What do they want from you? When can they potentially attack you based on their readiness? And how are they going to attack? I think you need to understand that. And this is where, again, a good intelligence capability comes into the picture, which you can apply to the overall posture. And I will go back to, again, looking at how intelligence agencies look at these things. They always look at things from a strategic management and, I would say tactical initiative perspective. I think in commercial world, it's still a little away from looking at our cyber posture at strategic management and operational perspective.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah. And I'm afraid now we've seen that we have to deal with another group of administrators. Those people at home who now operate equipment that's critical to the business. But I'm afraid we have to face the reality that not all of them like to spend their weekends patching all their systems, starting with their router and maybe not even stopping with their smart TV, because all that can have an influence on the security of corporate information now. Yeah? So with that maybe a bit pessimistic view, Marta, maybe things like blockchain or other technologies, can they address some of the issues we have looked at? Can they help us to secure identities, provide necessary privacy and security, and help us to manage those challenges?
I think yes. I'm far from being a blockchain maximalist. I think that every technology has its place. But actually, I do strongly believe that we are already very close to having a self-sovereign identity world, where we will be able to provide secure and trustworthy credentials to everyone on this planet. Maybe it won't be one system for everyone. Probably it will be many systems, but these systems will interoperate and will be able to communicate. With using self-sovereign identity as the basis of any kind of communication, we will then be able to verify information about users without stripping their privacy. They will be able to prove things about themselves without proving everything else, right? So to go back to the restaurant example, I would be able to prove that I've been to this place or I haven't been to the restaurant at the time when something happened, without really giving anyone my address, my phone number, anything like that, right? So these are really great ideas and things that we can think about. There is some interesting movement around combining, and forgive me for adding another buzzword here, adding machine learning to distributed ledger systems, where machine learning assists DLTs with finding anomalies and certain patterns, and this provides an additional layer of security effectively. And actually, I'm seeing more and more system marrying the two. Seems like it's a good fit because DLTs work on vast amounts of data, and machine learning helps analyze vast amount of data. So it's kind of a natural fit. So I do think that there's hope. I do think that also we talked about WannaCry, and also Stuxnet it's another great example of bad patching. And these are now applying distributed ledgers to manufacturing and quality control and maintenance control. You can actually prove the provenance of updates and distribute them much faster and verify that the updates have been applied. So it's not a person going on site and doing the tick, but actually automating it and removing the human factor. So I am very hopeful, despite seeing the world slightly dark currently.
Thank you. And coming from a company that is very active in the IoT space with lots of devices in different environments, often also critical infrastructures, I very much like the idea of making sure that system updates, patches, configuration changes can arrive there without direct human interaction, but still in a very secure and provenly secure way. That I think is a major factor moving forward when it comes to the general acceptance of digitalization, I would say, because why would people put things of value in the digital space if they cannot trust that space, if they cannot trust the services to be secure in the end? Yeah. So I think, to me, that was a really a great discussion. We analyzed a lot of the difficult parts. We saw some even opportunities that could come out of that. We saw that traditional defenses still have a lot of value. We also saw that we need to come up with new creative ideas. And Marta, you just mentioned artificial intelligence, machine learning. I think that's also a really good example of how we need to apply, or how we can apply new technology to become faster. We discussed the speed of events, how that increased, how quickly attackers jump on those opportunities. That's something I'm afraid we cannot solve at human speed. We have to solve it at computer speed. So to me, that was really a great, very informative discussion we had. And maybe to wrap it up, do you all maybe have one piece of advice that you would give businesses that feel that they maybe have not yet a good long-term strategy on how to implement the new normal, just to throw in another buzzword here? And Marta, maybe you want to go first? You're on mute.
Oh gosh, it's a hard question. I'm really bad in giving advice. So I think that yeah, we've talked about some important aspects that people should take into account. You know, building systems from scratch, being flexible, adopting to the new normal, thinking about the bigger picture and who is your user and how to make your system user-friendly, which also means user-proof. If the system is usable, it's not breakable, or it won't be easily breakable by the user. So I think all of those things are important when you are running a business in today's world, and when you want to make sure that you're creating systems that will last for longer than the next 12 months.
Thank you. Erdal?
Know yourself. Know the attacker. Know the attacking round. Think always, you know, every time when you look at something, think always from the other angle. How an attacker can attack me on this. Don't look, in Australia, for example, I love it. They have villa type houses everywhere. You know, they install big thick doors, and I'm like, hey, I can just break the window and go in. Why do you need that thick door? Instead of investing the door, just put an alarm. As you said, IoT, for example, work with partners like Siemens, for example, who gives you protection to the stuff that you can even think. Remember the big IoT DDoS attack just last year? Or work with partners like Komodo, for example. They open source antivirus, they open source EDR, which other companies charge lots of money. Well, you know, I just give an example of Komodo, but this could be anything else. So invest, please invest on your talents. Yes, I'm a talent as well. Yes, I wrote books, but I need to improve myself so I can improve my team, or my team has to improve itself. Invest on your humans, and try to have a mindset, not just for growing, also with assume breach mentality. I think Kumar was saying it. If you're walking with a bag of money in a street, which is quiet, probably you will try to protect that bag as much as you can, right? So you will try to not take too much attention, but try to protect it. But if you're in a public space, probably you will take less caution. So think all about this, and don't forget, it's not about when, it's not about if, it's about when. So if you assume, if you expect an attack anytime, like if you know, Stefan, I'm going to hit you in a second, you will keep your distance, you will try to protect yourself, right? And unfortunately, in cyberspace, where it's improving your logging and monitoring, let me shut up, otherwise I'm going to speak for another 2 hours. Thank you.
Thank you, Erdal.
Kumar.
Kumar.
It's a great point. And I'll just follow on that. I think a couple of points which I want to highlight here. One, again, going back to fundamentals, like, look at your threat profile, look at your attack surface, look at, how can you potentially create a proper zoning within your environment and for your users, for your consumers. Start to look at what you can do from segmentation perspective, right? And those are basic concepts, which I think we should be looking at for sure. And I think the other part, looking at from cybercrime perspective, those guys are innovating. They are spending all their time, money, and energy behind coming out with new type of attacks. And they're not going to stop. They now have got blessings from states. They've got all access to any type of infrastructure, you name it. They've got access to all different type of resources. So they will keep coming back. How do you effectively keep yourself up to date with some of the new moves, some of the new pivots which they are making? And make sure you understand that part. Going back to, Dr. Erdal's point is you need to understand how your enemies are preparing themselves and have a proper cyber intelligence capability within your organization. Apply intelligence not only to security controls, to be honest, go back and apply intelligence to your cyber strategy, to your policy, to your governance, and to your processes as well, which can really help you to carve out and make sure you allocate the right set of resources at the right time for the right cause.
Thank you very much, Kumar. Thank you all, Mauta, Erdal, Kumar, for the great panel discussion here, for the great advice you've given. For me, that leaves me only to say thank you very much again. Stay healthy, stay safe, stay secure.
And before we go on, I would like to also thank everybody as well. Besides that, of course, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum and the Minister of Economy to organizing all this. And thank you all of you. And we're looking forward to see all of you hopefully very soon in Dubai. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
It was great talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for sharing your insights and making this a truly engaging conversation. We're extremely delighted to have you. To our audiences, if you'd like to connect with our speakers, please move to the home lobby page. You can find the speakers by typing their names under Networking tab on the right hand of your screen. We welcome all of our audience to interact with each other on our chat wall. Please stay tuned with us as we have an exciting keynote by Edmund Lovell from KYC Chain coming up shortly.